So you are going to get you can check that if you want to 2.2 10 to the power of 12. So they have not put this in the new denominator. I moved, you know this, right? X to the power of minus 1 equals 1 over x, correct? Right?
Yes.
That's what I have done. 0.082 times 290 to the power of 1 means I brought this to the denominator.
I record this and add it to my YouTube.
Okay, I have to finish this today, this chapter. That's why. What I'm going to do is, if you teach the classes like this, I don't know how we are going to manage. And in the last class, I explained to you how to figure out the equilibrium concentrations. In order to determine the equilibrium constant of a reaction, you need the concentrations or the partial pressure at equilibrium, not the beginning. In fact, I worked out a problem. You remember using the quadratic equation? Here is an example. You can try this. This is the reaction. They have already worked out I2 plus Cl2. Remember, always you should write. So, are you going to pick 25 reactions like this and write the equilibrium constant expression? Right? I told you. You have to write, you have to pick something like this. Reactions, about 25 reactions like this, and write the Kp and Kc expression. And this is going to be 2ICl. And they have given Kp for this. Kp for this is 21.9 at 25 degrees Celsius. So they have, in order to calculate the equilibrium partial, here this is the partial pressure. So this is how you are going to write it. Kc equals the concentration of ICl to the power of 2 divided by concentration of iodine times the concentration of Cl2. This is the equilibrium constant expression for Kc. For Kp, this is what you are going to write. Kp equals partial pressure of ICl to the power of 2 over partial pressure of I2 to the power of 1. You don't need to write partial pressure of Cl2. This is what I told you. Pick any 25 equations like this, you have to write for both of them. Okay? And also you are going to figure out the delta N for these reactions. Delta N. Delta N means the number of product molecules minus the number of reactant molecules. So in this reaction, delta N equals how many product molecules you have? 2. How many reactant molecules you have? 1 plus 1, 2. Delta N is 0. You got my point? Likewise, you need to pick 25 equations and write these things. Okay? I will grade for 100 points. So next, heterogeneous equilibrium. I also touched upon this little bit. When you have a reaction, when the reactants or the products are in the form of solids, then how do you write the equilibrium constant expression? For instance, if you take magnesium metal solid, plus if you add acid HCl into this, you know metals react very vigorously with acid, correct? And you are going to get MgCl2 solution, magnesium chloride plus hydrogen gas, and this is going to be 2. You got my point? Now, how do you write the Kc equation here? Kc equals the molar concentration of the products MgCl2, there is one more power of 1, I don't need to write that, times the molar concentration of hydrogen, one molecule, no need to. And here the reactants, the denominator. So you are supposed, you will normally write like this, correct? HCl to the power of 2. Because magnesium is a solid, all solids will not appear in this equation. When you write the equilibrium constant expression for a reaction consisting of solids, the product side or on the reactant side, if there are solids, you do not show them in the equation. Is it clear? So this is the correct equation. Similarly, when you write for Kp, so partial pressure of MgCl2, partial pressure of H2 over partial pressure of HCl to the power of, you are not showing this. Whenever you have a solid as a reactant, the solids will never appear. The next thing is, whenever you have pure liquids, pure liquids means not solutions. Solution means you are going to add something to a solvent to get a solution, correct? When you add stable salt into water, you get a solution. It is not a pure liquid because it is a solution. Pure liquid means water. If you take water just like that, it is a pure liquid. If you take alcohol, pure liquid. You understand my point? Whenever a pure liquid is involved in a reaction, those pure liquids will also not appear in these expressions. Okay? I will write one example for that. This is your vinegar, acetic acid, aqueous plus water. L stands for the liquid. So you will end up with CH3, CO minus plus hydronium ion aqueous. Okay, now how will you write this? Kc equals, as usual, the products in the numerator, the molar concentration of acetate anion, because there is only one molecule to the power of 1, and hydronium ion concentration, there is also 1, don't need to write. And here the molar concentration of acetic acid, which is vinegar, because water is a pure liquid, it will not appear. Okay? Pure liquids and solids will never ever appear in the equilibrium constant expression. Is it clear? Okay. The next thing is, so in order to figure out in order to find out or in order to determine the equilibrium concentrations or partial pressure at equilibrium, in order to determine, the reason is, if you want to calculate the equilibrium constant, you have to have not the beginning concentrations, you have to have the concentrations after the reaction reaches the state of equilibrium, which we call equilibrium concentration, equilibrium partial pressure. Those are the numbers you are going to use to determine equilibrium constant. But most of the times we will never give you equilibrium concentrations. We will give you the beginning concentration. So how do you figure out the equilibrium concentrations? From the beginning concentrations, I worked out a problem in the last class. You must have watched it. How many of you watched last class? Yeah, we have to use an equation, quadratic equation, okay? So quadratic equation you have to, which is very complex. What is quadratic equation? Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, correct? This is the quadratic equation. In order to find the value of x, this is the formula you are going to use. X equals negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This is the formula you have to use in order to find the value of x. This x is going to be one, it will give you, that is in a reaction, say in beginning concentrations are given. But start the reaction. When once the reaction reaches the equilibrium, how much of these reactants are being consumed or being converted into products, we don't know, correct? Anything that we don't know, we always put that as x. You understand my point? Based on that, if you have watched my lecture, Monday's lecture, you will understand that. Those of you who are not there, if you go and read that, if you don't understand, you can ask me. Okay? Because I don't have time to again go through all that. So now the problem is, there is a loophole here. We don't need to figure out equilibrium concentrations following the quadratic equation. There is a shortcut method. You understand my point? You don't need to go through this complex equation. So there is a condition here. Under what conditions we can ignore this? The change in the concentration of x. So in this table, this is the table everybody needs to use this for under 3 chapters. So you are going to call this as concentration. Say I am going to write for this reaction H2, I2 and 2HI. 1 mole of this, 1 mole of that. So these are all the molar concentration of this. The reaction is this H2 plus I2 2HI. This is in order to figure out the equilibrium concentration, you need to use this, for which you need to construct a table like this. So the first one we call initial concentration. They have given 0. I don't know what it is. I think it is 1 mole per 0.5 liter. I think iodine they give 2 moles in 0.5 liters. And of course, before the reaction, these are the initial concentrations. Reaction not started yet. When the reaction not started means the product is 0. You got it? Now, what we want is the molarity, initial concentration. We want them in molarity. What is a molarity? Moles per liter. Understand? Okay, 1 mole in 1 liter. But they have given 1 mole in 0.5 liter. It is not in 1 liter. So multiply that by 2. That becomes per liter, correct? So this obviously becomes 2 moles per liter. This becomes 4 moles per liter. This is 0. That is your initial concentration. Now the reaction has started. Okay? After you start the reaction, how much of this hydrogen is going to convert? You don't know. How much of iodine is going to convert? You don't know. Anything that we don't know, we can put that as what? X. And I am going to, so here I am going to say change. How much of change? We don't know. I am going to put this as X. What is the meaning of this minus? Because it is a reactant, with react it decreases, correct? the reactant decreases, the product increases. And 1 mole of this minus 1x, iodine also 1x, and 2 moles of this is going to be 2x plus 2x. You understand my point? So now, what is the concentration at equilibrium? That is 2 minus x. This is 4 minus x, and that is 2x. And apply the law of mass action to that. Kc equals the molar concentration of Hi to the power of 2 over molar concentration of H2 and molar concentration of I2. Now what you do is, the equilibrium concentration of Hi, how much? 2x. That is 2x whole square. Can I write directly 4x square? 2x to the power of 2 is 4x squared, right? 4x squared. And H2 is what? 2 minus x. And I2 equals what? 4 minus x. In the problem, they have given Kc value. Are you following? So they have given this as 64. 64 equals 4x squared. This is going to be 8 minus 6x plus x squared. So now cross multiply these two and solve for x. How do you solve for x? This is the equation. So you don't need to undergo all this. When, like I said, there is a condition. When this x, whatever x, if the change is less than 5%, if the change that is x is less than 5%, then you see, look here, if the change in the value of x is less than 5%, you can just ignore this. Understand the point? The difference, you can ignore that. So I will work out one problem in support of that, and then I will move on. I hope you have a problem. They have given this here. This is the problem. This is in your PowerPoint work. 2 molecules of hydrogen sulfide, which is a very nasty gas, and you will get 2 molecules of H2 hydrogen plus sulfur gas. Okay. So now if you want to write Kc, Kc equals the molar concentration of H2 to the power of 2, the molar concentration of sulfur divided by the molar concentration of H2S to the power of 2. Got my point? And you need to figure out the equilibrium concentrations in order to figure out this. But they have given beginning concentration, initial concentration. This is the table they have written. I am going to replace this. So this is your concentration. And this is the H2S, hydrogen sulfide. And this is your H2 concentration and your sulfur concentration. What is the initial concentration they have given? They have given is a 0.025 molarity. Hydrogen is, say, there is 0, and because before the reaction starts, 0. So now we are going to start change. So change is what? This is minus 2x. If you take 2 moles of that, you will get 2 moles of this and 2 moles, 1 mole of that, right? So minus 2x, and this is 2x, and that is 1x. Understand my point? So now, what is the concentration at equilibrium? 0.025 minus x minus 2x. This is just 2x, and that is x. Now apply here. Kc equals x2 is what? 2x whole squared. Sulfur equals what? X. Over x2s is what? 0.025 minus 2x whole squared. And let us see, have they given they have to give this Kc value if they have to figure out, Kc value they have given, you have in your PowerPoint, okay? I just to make you crystal for your understanding, they have given 1.67 times 10 to the power of negative 7, which is equal to, can I write directly 4x cube? 4x cube there, right? And then here I am going to ignore this. Why? I am making an assumption. I am making an assumption that what? X will be less than 5%. Then once you figure out the value of x, then you have to double check that. So if you ignore this 2x for the time being, then you will have what? 0.025 whole square, correct? Right? And they have found here, say 4x cube equals 0.025 square times 1.67 times 10 to the power of negative 7. And x equals what? X equals what? Cube root of, are you following? X cube, we want x. X equals cube root, right? Cube root of whole thing. 0.025 square times 1.67 times 10 to the power of 7 divided by what? By 4. If you simplify this, they found the value of, I will write the value 2.97 times 10 to the power of negative 4. They got this. They made an assumption that x is very small, less than 5%, therefore they ignored this, they cancelled this, they did not take into consideration. Now they found that value of x equals this. So now we have to double check this. It should be less than 5%, correct? So what is the initial concentration we started with? So I removed that. The initial concentration we started with 0.025, correct? So percent x equals 2.9. 2.9 means I am going to write 0.000297. This is according to the scientific notation, but you can rewrite that 297 divided by what? 0.025. Can somebody tell me how much is this? Times 100%. Tell me quickly.
1.188.
So say roughly about 1.2%, correct? Right? This is 1.2%. So what is the percent of change of x? 1. Is it less than 5%?
Yes.
Therefore you don't need to worry. So just find the value of x like this, and then you plug them in the table. What is the first table? Equilibrium concentration of x to s. Equilibrium concentration. What was that? 0.025 minus 2x, correct? Minus 2x minus 2 times 0.000297. That is the equilibrium concentration of H2S. What is the equilibrium concentration of H2? H2 2 times of x, how much? 0.000297 polarity. And what is the sulfur? That is only 1x, correct? They are all in molarity. So these are all the equilibrium concentrations. If you plug these things in the equation here, you are supposed to get this one. Understand? So therefore, this is what we call using the approximation concept. We are making an approximation. We are making an assumption. If the change of the concentration is less than 5%, then you can ignore in the quadratic equation. You can go straight. So next, I'm going to talk about what is called the reaction quotient. The reaction quotient is very simple. For a general reaction of this type, so this is a general reversible reaction, correct? Now, once this reaction reaches the equilibrium, this is what you are going to write: Kc equals molar concentration of C to the power of C, molar concentration of D to the power of D, or molar concentration of this to the power of A, and molar concentration of B to the power of B. And how do you write Kp? Kp equals partial pressure of capital C to the power of C, partial pressure of D to the power of D, and partial pressure of this to the power of A, and partial pressure of B to the power of B. This is how we write for Kc and Kp. This is after the reaction reaching the state of equilibrium. Is it clear? Suppose, how did you write it? You wrote these equations using the law of mass action, LMA. What is LMA? The rate of a reaction is directly proportional to the concentration of the reactants. You remember I derived this equation in the last class. Correct? I derived this. LMA means law of mass action. According to the law of mass action, the rate of a reaction is directly proportional to the molar concentration of the reactant. Based on that, we wrote these equations. That after reaching the state of equilibrium, suppose if you apply the law of mass action before the reaction reaches equilibrium, that's the question. Can we apply? Can we determine the speed of a reaction? Can we find out the rate of a reaction which is not reached yet the equilibrium? Understand? So it is possible for us to determine the speed even it reaches the state of what? Equilibrium. Then instead of writing Kc, we are going to write that as Q. I write Qc. It's called the reaction quotient, which is just like Kc. Kc is what? When once the reaction is at equilibrium, two-way, go back and forth, same speed. But before reaching the equilibrium, if you apply the law of mass action, and this is how you are going to write the molar concentration of C to the power of C, D to the power of D, and where QC is similar to KC, this is QC, QC before equilibrium, KC after equilibrium. You understand? So this Q is called reaction quotient. Similar to Kp, you are going to write Qp, partial pressure of so this is the corresponding expressions for QC and Kp. So now, can you figure out, knowing the value of Kc, you have the reaction QC, Kp, QP, Kc, Kp. What if the QC or QP, if QC is greater than Kc? What is your explanation? Remember, QC is what? The products and the reactants, correct? Right? When can you, if QC is less than Kc means what? Less than Kc means it should be less, right? When can you expect this value to be less? When the denominator is more. Are you following? Say here, when the denominator component is greater than the numerator content, then only this will be less, isn't it? So what kind of message it would give you? The reaction will go in the opposite direction. So you will have more reactants still, less products, more reactants, then the QC is less than Kc. Suppose QC is greater, this is, yeah, okay, no, this is, if QC is less than Kc, what I explained to you, if QC is greater than Kc, the reaction will go in the opposite direction, towards the reactants. Understand? Suppose the QC is less than Kc, then you will have more products, isn't it? Right? So if QC is less than Kc, then the reaction, forward reaction is more predominant, and this is the reverse reaction. Exactly same thing, if QP is less than, if QP is greater than, the only difference between these reactions are taking place in the solution form and these reactions are taking place in the gas form. Only the physical state differs. So now, this is an extremely important take-home message for you guys. The next thing is, and there are, I think they have worked out some problems. You can go ahead and practice those problems. If you have difficulty, you can always ask me.
Dr. Kara, for QC, did you say that the reactants are the numerator and the denominator?
Always in these equations, the reactants in the denominator, the products are always in the numerator. In the expression, whenever you write an expression, so left side of this arrow mark reactants, right side the products. In the equilibrium constant expression, the products are always on the top, the reactants are always in the lower, that is the denominator. So if the equilibrium constant is to be very, very high, then the products must be high, reactants must be less, right? That is how you have to interpret these reactions. So the next important component is, what are the factors that would influence? What are the factors that would influence the equilibrium constant of a reaction? Factors affecting the equilibrium of a reaction. I have already discussed these things in chemical kinetics. What are the factors that would affect the rate of a reaction? Concentration. Correct. The nature of the reactants, then the pressure of the reaction, and then the temperature, right? And lastly, the catalyst, correct? The same factors would play a role here also. The first one is, say I'm going to write this specific equation. Nitrogen plus hydrogen gas, they react to produce ammonia. Ammonia is a very important product, right? Ammonia is used extensively as fertilizers all over the world. So that's very, very useful. So this is a reversible reaction. Understand? My question is this. It has already reached equilibrium. Kc or Kp, it is already there. The reaction is already running back and forth at equilibrium. The same speed, going and coming back. Suppose, now, from external source, this is a container. To this container you connect from outside a cylinder containing ammonia gas. You are connecting to this product side from outside through a wire or pipe or faucet, whatever it is, to increase the concentration of ammonia. Are you following? Right now, this is equilibrium. If you increase the concentration of ammonia to this system already, do you think, I am well settled in life, if some disturbance happens, don't you think we will be disturbed? So by increasing the concentration of the products, ammonia is a product. So what happens to the existing equilibrium? It would be disturbed. So what do you mean by that? The current equilibrium will be disturbed in such a way that a new equilibrium will be re-established. Understand my point? When you disturb this existing equilibrium, either by increasing the concentration of the products, if you increase the concentration of the product, the new equilibrium will be established. What happens there? If you increase the concentration of this, the reaction begins to go much faster to this side, correct? So more reactants will be forming here because you are increasing on that side. So that sets into what? By increasing the product's concentration, the reaction prefers to go in the reverse direction, to the left. The equilibrium will be disturbed. It shifts to the left side. Understand my point? Suppose you increase the concentration of these, one of them, any one or both. What happens? If you increase the concentration of that, again the equilibrium will be disturbed and more product will be formed, okay? Right? So the existing equilibrium will be disturbed and a new equilibrium will be established accordingly. If the reactant concentrations are increased, the reaction goes predominantly to the right side, to the product side. Understand my point? This is very, very important for you. That's concentration. Pressure and volume, I am not going to comment on that. Okay? The most important thing is the temperature. Do you know who studied these factors which would affect the equilibrium of a reaction? A very famous professor by name Le Chatelier. His name is what? I hope I remember. Something like that. I will. Anyway, it's a proper noun. It doesn't matter. See, if Q is greater than K, if Q is less than K, and if Q equal to K, it is equilibrium. So go ahead and practice them. So this is the approximation concept. Okay, now.
Oh, you passed it. I just saw his name.
What?
You passed it. I just saw his name.
I don't know, this is all. Okay. I think I interchange this. Okay, Leitch-Clair's principles. So now what does he say? Various changes in conditions have on the position of equilibrium. It says that if a system at equilibrium is disturbed, I know, I'm sure you are following that. Disturbed means either by increasing the concentration of the products or by decreasing. You don't need to increase always. You can suck the ammonia out. Then again the equilibrium will be disturbed and the reaction goes much faster towards the product side, right direction. If you decrease it, if you increase it, in the opposite direction. So now, if a system at equilibrium is disturbed, the position equilibrium will shift to minimize the disturbance. Disturbances all involve making the system open. Okay, say after equilibrium is established, a reactant is added. As long as the added reactant is included in the equilibrium constant expression, that is, as long as it is not a solid or liquid, I have already told you. How will this affect the rate of the forward reaction? Adding a reactant initially increases the rate of the forward reaction, but it has no initial effect on the rate of the reverse reaction. So you read that, I have already explained this to you. These are all Leitch-Clair's principles. Left, and this is equilibrium shifts away from the side with added chemicals or toward the side with removed chemicals. These are all the examples. The essence of that I have already now temperature. I am going to explain this to you. So you know temperature plays a very important role on the speed of a reaction, correct? Right? So also I am sure you are familiar with the two types of chemical reactions, exothermic reactions and endothermic reactions. So what is an exothermic reaction? The exothermic reaction is one during which energy is being released, energy comes out, correct? You agree? In the form of heat or something, it will come out. So now, if you increase the temperature of an exothermic reaction, as such, say this is an exothermic reaction. N2 3H2 to the next spring, okay, plus energy. So energy is coming out from there. If you increase the temperature of an exothermic reaction, there is no need because energy is coming out. So money is losing from my pocket. There is no need for someone else to put money into my pocket. Correct?
Right.
Because I don't need that. I will pick up all bad qualities if you put too much money into my pocket. So likewise, during exothermic reaction, increase of temperature will not favor the right-sided reaction. And you will not get more of the products. Whenever we do reactions, what is the purpose of a reaction? We want to make some good products, right? We want to make good products. If it is an exothermic reaction, if you increase temperature further, then you are not going to get more of the products. It sets the reaction in opposite direction. You understand my point? So therefore, for all exothermic reactions at equilibrium, increase of temperature is not a favorable situation. You understand? It does not favor the forward reaction. Forward means left to right. Reverse, it favors the reverse reaction. And what on the contrary, endothermic reaction is what? In order to carry out a reaction, you have to heat the reaction. You have to supply the energy. Correct? When you supply the energy, then you will have more products. If you don't supply the energy, then you will have very few product molecules. So which one do you like? Do you want to increase the temperature of an endothermic reaction or what?
Increase.
You have to increase the temperature of an endothermic reaction if you want that reaction to go from left to
Right.
right. Okay? So that is very, very important. And the last component of this is catalyst. What is a catalyst? A catalyst is a substance which alters the speed of a chemical reaction, correct? It enhances the speed of a chemical reaction. Remember, in this entire chapter, we have been talking about reversible reaction, correct? What is a reversible reaction? Reaction goes in the forward direction and also in the backward direction. So what is the function of a catalyst? It simply enhances or decreases the speed on both sides. Understand my point? If it increases the speed of the forward reaction, it also increases the speed of the reverse reaction. So what would be the net effect? What is the net effect of using a catalyst? Zero, right? Catalyst does not have any effect whatsoever on the rate of a reversible reaction. So that finishes this talk. Okay? I want you to bring all your no period assignments and then this test. Okay? Next Wednesday, and do not forget to receive this also. And do not, 1 second, I am going to take the rules. Adam, Lauren, Jackie, Mason, Lenny.